next up, we have velvet boots. Now this is taking us, I mean, would you class this as 90s or is this like 70s?
Well, it's 60s via 90s.
Okay.
Velvet was really big in the 60s, late 60s, flower power. But let's do a little history test here. I'm not going to ask you, Chelsea, because I'm sure you know. I'm going to ask the audience. Hello. Do you guys know where velvet comes from? Who introduced velvet in the world? Do you guys know that? Because at Women's Wear Daily, fortunately, we are educated every day about fabric and history.
I have no
Great.
idea.
Well, I'll tell you. Velvet came into play. It was basically discovered or created in the Middle East in 1400s. In the 1500s, Venice, Italians, God loves them, they took velvet and introduced it to Europe. And the kings and queens in France and England found velvet through Venice, and they decided it was the royal fabric. That explains the red velvet cape. And a lot of the portraits of the French and English kings were in head-to-toe velvet. It was a royal luxury fabric. It should stay there, if you ask me. I had my own velvet moment when I was a raver in the 90s. I wore a crop velvet, I'm sorry, I have a picture to prove it. Crop velvet top with a leather pant. I mean, whatever, it's a different time. I went through my velvet phase, but velvet, it is very dangerous game to me.
How come?
Head-to-toe velvet dress, I think it's an emotionally draining experience. Seriously. It takes too much out of you. When it comes to a boot, I don't love it, but I probably would say that it's the most acceptable use of denim in an accessory or in a paneling detail on a dress or an accent. In men's, maybe a burgundy or jewel green velvet blazer, pretty good. But let me tell you, that picture at the end, do you guys know what chenille is? Chenille is a really interesting fabric. That lady there was very sure about what she was doing. She was just making it very clear. She liked texture, and chenille and velvet is super annoying together. For me, it's too much. I used to have also a chenille sweater. Go ahead.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
How would you say that these shoes actually wear? I mean, how does velvet get treated when it's so close to the ground?
You know what? I think that black velvet is the only way to go. If you go for those like yellow with that checks pan, that is super
It's a commitment.
demanding.
Yeah.
Super committed.
Yeah.
I don't know how many commitments do you have in your everyday life, but if you want to commit to that, you better take time, you know?
And what about
Because it's
the
gonna take over.
print? A printed velvet? What's your stance on that?
Super difficult. I mean, if you're gonna wear something super basic, it's great, but it's gonna take over instantly, you know? I think.
And would you say, I mean, I know you're not even into the style whatsoever, but if you were,
Yes.
is it more of a cropped jean kind of slack look? Is it good with a dress? Is this a dress up or is this really kind of a daytime look?
I mean, to be honest with you, for me, if you're gonna do it, you need to own it. If you're gonna wear velvet booties with a flower pattern, you just need to go for it. Oopsie. I see. Being funny. Haha. You were in velvet. Anyway, so you just need to own it. You just need to make it the epicenter of the look and go for it and own it and walk it like you mean it, you know?
Yeah. I think one last piece on this before we move to the next one is that there tends to be a pattern in how the velvet boot is, or how velvet is being used in the boot. So it's a chunky heel. It's kind of like they're all kind of sitting at a certain height. So it's really meant to kind of feel a bit retro.
Absolutely, and also you're trying to gain a bit of a street credibility to downgrading the prettiness of velvet by mixing it with something that feels more street and aggressive. You
Right.
know, you're trying to make it more manly, let's say.
Yeah.
You know, more edgy is the word. Edgy is the word.
Okay.